Now that I have a nice fancy pants editor, I need to actually make a game with it. I have some basic ideas in mind, but first I want to talk about the general design philosophy behind the game. A popular coined term nowadays is the systemic gameplay, which is basically just a sandbox type of game with mechanics that form systems. It's nothing new or revolutionary, so I don't intend to be pushing the boundaries of experimentation, but I think there's more to it than just putting a bunch of wacky fun mechanics together, or making a game that you can play your way. What it comes down to for me is that it's more of a way of making games that tends toward that type of gameplay. I don't really have a catchy word for it, but I think of it as outward development. I'll explain that with a common counter example. You're making a game. You think of a cool idea, then you think of another cool idea, and then you think of another cool idea, and you keep going and adding all these ideas and thinking out the world building. You think of all the scenic environments and all the kinds of creatures and mechanics they can put together and so on until you've created this massive vague cloud of an idea. This would be inward development, starting with all the things already set, already placed in your mind or on paper in a design document, and then working inward towards what the actual center of the game is that you're making. This has the major flaw of just being impractical. Unfortunately, it's basically how AAA games are made, and it's easy to get caught up in. The kind of development I'm presenting is the opposite. You think of an idea. Then you stop there and make it. At least prototype it. See how it functions. Then you can add another idea and see how that is in balance with the other idea, the first idea. To me, this is the best way to do things since you're starting off with a core foundation that you know works and building off of that. This approach also applies to building out the world or levels of the game itself. You start with an area, then you make another area, and so on until you have a complete game. If you think about any AAA open world game, you can't imagine they approached it this way. You can kind of tell they just started with a massive terrain and started trying to fill it up with interesting stuff. I'm talking from the perspective of an indie developer, but a game is still a game, and it needs to be full of the best of your ideas and not just a bunch of empty space. This is also a reason I made the editor the way I made it. I designed it specifically to be resized from the center out, to almost force you to design a map by drawing out an idea and adding to it, not starting with a huge blank canvas to work with. Another huge bonus to this approach is that once you have the core mechanics and have the basic structure of the game, it's essentially playable. It's like how some painters try to make any stage of their painting look finished in a way. They get the basic ideas with the colors they want to see and then slowly add more detail until they're satisfied. This is how I want to make games. Of course, games are far more technical and need tons of work until they have all the colors down, but the philosophy is the same. With all this said, though, this is a general approach, and some of the creative ideas can come out before you make them, of course, but each idea will form through this additive process. Thinking of the ideas in the relation to what you already have. Now, I do have the basic core idea that I will be working from, but it's going to need tons of working pieces to function, such as enemies, combat mechanics and animations and etc. But the basic premise of the game is set. What I can say definitively is that it will be an open world action adventure with some RPG mechanics. I think there's a lot to explore in that kind of a game, but I'll leave that for another video. It is still super early in development, so the specifics are still to come. But that is the point of this way of development. I do have a couple ideas for a title too, so hopefully I can start calling it by name. But boy do I suck at naming things. Anyways, take care and thanks for watching.